All right, so let's bring a little bit more love back to our girl Jennifer, because I don't want people leaving like, Lord, here she come. Um, but one of the things I have to say about Jennifer that although she indeed had different things happen in life and she carried over some of that manipulative components that you talked about before, she still remained hopeful. Why do you believe that it is important to remain hopeful, even after all craziness has broken out in your life and things like that? Why should we keep hope alive?
Okay, Jesse.
I know,
Yeah,
right? I just said that. Wait a minute, keep hope alive. No.
but no, but hope is everything.
Mm,
Um, Hope is everything. Hope is in every aspect of life that we have. Hope is that thing that brings excitement to it.
mm,
Any new thing that we have, whether it's a person expecting a baby or expectation of a new job or expectation of a different life,
mhm.
um, is hope is what brings that expectation. So that's why when hope is deferred or hope is denied, that's why it's so crushing because it's such a part of who we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be people that can hope.
Yes.
Um, you know, you see that in the world that we have without hope things seem off.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying, and you've seen this within this coronavirus phase when
Yeah.
people don't feel like they have hope, things
Hmm.
seem so hard,
Hmm.
and you can get hard to things.
Yes.
So hope is something that is very much needed, and when
Hmm.
it's lost, um, it can be you can tell when a person has lost hope.
Hmm.
It
You can.
starts to read all over their body that they've
Mm,
lost hope because hope trickles down, and when you lose hope, it trickles down to other things.
that's true.
So yeah, hope is something that you always need, even and you need to fight to have it, even when things don't look like they have, they don't look like they can be hopeful.
Hmm.
When situations don't look like they can be hopeful, all you need is just a little bit to
Yeah.
get you going to the next day.
See, that's one of the things I like. This is sort of off subject, but on subject. This is one of the things I like about our ancestors that they remain hopeful. And even though the situations were so grim, you can look at their lives and be like, you know what? They had a gleam in their eye of saying, like, one day, someday, this is going to be different. And so I think that trickled down to all of us to some
Oh
degree of
yeah.
saying, like, you have to remain hopeful that nothing is necessarily a permanent status. So don't take this situation and believe like there's no way of getting out of this. There's a way out. And it's going to take work, as we said before. It takes work to get out of certain situations. However, that work is worth it. And so you have to
Yeah.
remember that. So that my girl Jennifer, I told you, she coming through. She had some stuff going on with her, but regardless of the fact, she still remained hopeful. Okay,
Don't we
so
all? That's a
yeah, you gotta hold on to that hope, boy. You better put some of that in your pocket on a rainy day, because you never know. I'm telling you. So I'm gonna swap characters a little bit because I think we hit Jennifer pretty hard. I don't want people to be turning their nose up at my girl when they be reading about it. So
Oh
I
no.
think I'm gonna talk a little bit about Constance and sort of compare some connections over. So one of the things that Constance talked about, and I think a lot of people in society have the same view as well. When the book opens up, she talks about some of the romance novels that her and her friend was reading at the time, and she was like, "Oh, they're so unbelievable." Do you believe that some of the romance novels out there are like totally unbelievable, or do they have elements of realism in there?
Look at I used to read that stuff. I used to I used to I used to go to Walmart and get those $5 books.
Yeah, get them pictures of them
And
standing up there like that.
I do think they give you a false sense of hope when it comes to relationships and how relationships are because they don't I don't really think that they tell the full story of relationship being work. You know
Ah,
what I'm saying? And even I mean you can put the same thing to a Hallmark movie.
yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Who doesn't love homework, right?
like oh gosh, we love Hallmark Christmas
Yes.
movies and we love all of this, but even they talked about is some elements in every movie that are going to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so because it breathes a certain aspect to the movie, That's, Christmas movie. They have to have snow. Somebody has to be in a small town. They have to do this. You know what I'm saying? So
He's a hidden millionaire.
I
Don't
think
nobody
it's
know
a
about.
formula. I think it's a formula to that, so that they can relive the fantasy of it, because that's
Mm.
where, in your imagination of how things are supposed to be, sometimes we can forget the reality of what they are.
So
You
how do
know?
we dissect that? Because if we are living in the mindset of the fantasy world, how can we make sure that we don't prevent real relationships that are trying to develop in our lives? How
Oh
do
God.
we, I know, right? How do we sort of separate that? Because sometimes, and even if you look at like Tyler Perry concept and stuff like that, he'll say like oftentimes you pass by certain opportunities because they don't look like what you may have fantasized about to some degree. Now, I may be paraphrasing, his thoughts and all that, of course. But how do we get out of that? Because it's not just women. Because some people are, oh, that's just a woman thing. Oh no, there are men who have their ideal of what a woman is going to look like or portray in X, Y, and Z that can sometimes affect how a real life relationship is
Oh
unfolding.
my God.
I know, right? It's heavy.
No, I I think it's living in the reality of things. Like,
Mm,
sometimes you have to take your take yourself off of social media,
yes.
take yourself off of television, and you will your mind will allow you to go to places that you allow in. So you have to police your mind to
That's
certain things. Um,
that's deep.
Hallmark is beautiful around Christmas time. You know, you want
It
that
is.
feeling of love in the air, fresh, all of that stuff.
Yes.
You want
Like, oh.
you want that feeling of love, but you know, um, your Boaz may not look like the little Hallmark, but what I'm saying is living in the moment and
Mhm.
making sure that you really see the world for yourself. Sometimes, like, travel, do things that you have not done before, take yourself off of social media,
Mm.
um, talk with friends, go
Mhm.
out with friends,
Mhm.
because I really think that only by experience will you be able to separate the real